Good morning. Welcome to the Justice Department's convening on unlawful machine gun conversion devices, or MCDs. I'm Justin O'Connell, Special Counselor to the Director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Today, here at ATF, we've gathered some of the foremost pioneers in law enforcement, academia, and the additive manufacturing industry to address the growing problem posed by MCDs. As many of you know, MCDs are small devices that can convert lawful semi-automatic firearms into illegal machine guns, which are capable of firing multiple rounds with a single pull of the trigger. Our goal here today is to engage in a meaningful discussion with these key stakeholders to explore strategies to address this public safety concern. But before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank and introduce the person chiefly responsible for bringing us here today, my colleague from ATF, Chelsea Rice.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Chelsea Rice. I am also a special counselor to the director at ATF, and I would first like to thank Justin for being a fantastic partner and setting this up, and friend, and really being full support throughout all of this. There are so many people to thank for getting to where we are today. I won't list them all, but I will make sure I personally thank all of you. First and foremost, though, I would like to thank our director, Stephen Dettelbach, who really, throughout the time that I have had the privilege of working with him and for him, since he first hired me as an assistant United States attorney in Cleveland, Ohio in 2010, and then I joined him here at ATF. He is innovative and driven to find unique solutions to use every tool at our disposal to address the greatest public safety threats that we are facing. And so really it is with his exquisite leadership and drive to do justice and protect the public that brings us all here today. So I really, we owe him a great debt of gratitude. You all have the programs. I don't want to spend much of your time with me speaking, so I will just say in introducing Director Dettelbach that he, as I referenced, was the United States Attorney in the Northern District of Ohio, has worked in the Department of Justice for multiple decades, and at ATF has truly been a leader and an innovator, and it is my privilege to introduce to you our Director, Stephen Dettelbach. Thank you.
I don't know if I like that multiple decades part I was telling the DAG. Good morning and welcome to ATF. I want to thank Chelsea and Justin, who you just heard from, for your leadership in putting together today's important convening. On behalf of myself and Deputy Director Richardson, we want to welcome you all here. Thanks to everybody at ATF who helped make this happen. Our fantastic folks in PGA, as well as field operations, led by our Assistant Director, Matt Farisco, and EPS, another directorate led by Bill Ryan, James Van, and of course, our Assistant Director, Megan Bennett. Thank you all for making this work. Our Chief Counsel's Office, I see here too. Pam, thank you for everything. I want to start by taking a second, though, and acknowledging the horrible tragedy in Georgia on Wednesday. Everybody here at ATF, and I'm sure in the room, is thinking of and praying for the victims and survivors of the tragic school shooting that occurred on Wednesday. Our hearts go out to the people there, to their families, to that entire community, to the victims and survivors, and to the victims and survivors of senseless gun violence that takes and changes the lives of tens of thousands in this country. Hold on, let's wait 1 second. That takes and also changes the lives of tens of thousands of people in this country every single year. The brave and talented folks at DOJ and ATF, though, are about more than just thoughts and prayers. We are about action. And just this week, in partnership with the International Association of Chiefs of Police, we launched a new ad campaign with the help of Shaquille O'Neal to address safe storage of firearms. Of course, in this country, you have a right to bear arms, but as an American, you also have a responsibility, a duty to properly secure them. More than 200,000 firearms are reported stolen from private individuals each year. And those guns do not go for hunting. They are often used to hurt other Americans. So we are about action. And speaking of action, doing things, that's what today's convening is, of course, all about. I'm really thrilled that this event is happening here at ATF. Today, we are bringing together leading members from academia, from the private sector, from law enforcement to prosecutors to address a dangerous threat to public safety, the proliferation of MCDs, or machine gun conversion devices. And let's start here to sort of set the table for this. Using, selling, making, or even possessing a machine gun conversion device is illegal. Full stop. Been that way for decades. At ATF and across all of the Department of Justice, we are and will continue to take every legal action against those who break the law. You're going to hear later from agents and police officers in Florida who handled a case just like this. But I want to say to you this, these folks in law enforcement, they cannot fix this threat to public safety on their own. We need to raise awareness on this issue. We need to educate and inform the public. And we need in government to enlist outside help, ideas, collaboration from the best minds in every sector, private, public, academic, to make real progress. That's why we turned, for instance, to Dartmouth College's Thayer School of Engineering. That's why we also turned to faculty from Wichita State University, really unique innovation campus, which brings together people from academia and students and industry to work on everything from aviation to law enforcement. It's why we reached out to one of our premier national lab facilities, Oak Ridge National Laboratory. We are thrilled to have leaders from these institutions with us here today to share information and to hear from them about their ideas. And by the way, who knows 3D printing better than the folks who eat, sleep, and breathe that stuff? So we also invited leaders and trailblazers in the additive manufacturing industry itself here. We're very excited and grateful to have the people from these places, from these institutions here with us, to have their skills and expertise, and for their willingness to learn and brainstorm ways to stop the use of these innovative products and technologies to create illegal machine gun conversion devices. These technological developments, this industry, it provides tremendous positive value to our economy and to our country. And it's its misuse that we're here today to try and get a handle on. Because in our nation, we are best when we work together on these types of hard issues, not separately and certainly not at odds. We're also grateful, and I take particular pride in ATF's own subject matter experts, many of whom you'll hear from today. They work tirelessly and have for decades, dedicating their lives to stay ahead of emerging threats to public safety like MCDs. And of course, we are beyond honored to have the Deputy Attorney General of the United States here today, Lisa Monaco. That she is here is a testament to the seriousness of this issue and also to the department's commitment to taking a collaborative approach to problem solving and the strong support that we have from the Department of Justice and leadership itself on this issue. Thank you very much, Deputy Attorney General Monaco. I know you have an incredibly tight schedule, and that you're even giving us any of your time today is just a testament to your leadership. You'll hear shortly about some new steps we're taking to even further our enforcement efforts at Department of Justice to hold accountable people who illegally possess or sell machine gun conversion devices. But let me just give you some background. Decades ago, Congress banned, except in very limited circumstances, new machine guns. And if you had told folks, I think in law enforcement, let's say 10 years ago, that in 2024, machine guns would be a major threat to public safety, I think they'd have rolled their eyes at you in disbelief back then. It's in the days of Al Capone anymore. Yet, here we are in this room. And everywhere I go, all around the country, I talk to law enforcement, I listen to them, and they all tell me the same thing, that pounding, repetitive sound of automatic weapon fire has hit the streets of this nation like jackhammers, and it has shattered so many lives. This resurgence is being driven by increased access to machine gun conversion devices. And as Chelsea and Justin said, many times these are sort of small pieces of plastic and metal. They look relatively innocuous, but they're anything but innocuous. Because what they do is they convert a lawful semi-automatic weapon, which means a weapon that shoots one bullet every time you pull the trigger, into an illegal machine gun. And what that means is every time you pull the trigger, it shoots multiple rounds. And when a gun is modified with a conversion device, sometimes it looks just like this. It has the potential to fire hundreds of rounds per minute, and sometimes even 1,000 or more rounds per minute. Think about that. I want to be very clear. A conversion device on its own, a device like this on its own, is an illegal machine gun under federal law, and that's whether it's in a firearm installed or not. At ATF, we're working tirelessly with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners and prosecutors, who we have great representation from here today, to combat this problem, because these items are a threat to public safety and to law enforcement. Just a couple of the tragedies we've seen recently to make this really land for people. A murder of a police officer in Houston, Texas. The officer's killed during a narcotics arrest, an event that is devastatingly caught on the slain officer's own body camera. A police chief in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, fatally shot in the head during the pursuit of a suspect wanted on probation violation. Law enforcement recovered 5 firearms from the deceased suspect, including a modified item that was firing as a machine gun. And just this summer, 21 people shot and 2 killed at a party in Detroit after a shooting involving multiple firearms. At least one was also equipped with an MCD. Where, get this, over 100 shell casings, and we see this often, are recovered from the scene. Now, when we first started seeing this, machine gun conversion devices appeared to be a localized problem. They affected just a few different states, and they were sort of an item that gangs and drug traffickers tried to get. In just a short time, however, with technological advancements in additive manufacturing, specifically 3D printing, law enforcement began to see MCDs spreading like wildfire. More and more of these devices were being sold over the internet and on social media, and more, they're actually just being printed by inexpensive 3D printers in homes and garages everywhere. And not only was I hearing about this from chiefs and sheriffs and mayors and communities leaders, but we were seeing hard data that backed up what I heard. I remember one chief telling me, I remember his words, it's raining Glock switches. In 2023, ATF released Volume 2 of the National Firearms Commerce and Trafficking Assessment, which reports on crime guns. The report revealed that in the decade before 2021, there was a 570% increase in the number of conversion devices reported recovered by law enforcement. 570%. By the way, this number almost certainly underestimates the true scope of the problem, because these are the things that are recovered and reported. And law enforcement, in many instances, doesn't even know what to look for always when it searches for machine gun conversion devices, because they don't look like Tommy guns, right? They look like this. That's why, of course, we harnessed our expertise as the nation's expert in MCDs here at ATF to work with and train alongside our prosecution colleagues, all our law enforcement colleagues and partners, how to spot these devices, how to identify them, how to charge the individuals with machine gun conversion device violations. And we've done trainings for literally thousands and thousands of our law enforcement partners. Because, did I forget to mention it? I'll say it again. Illegal possession of a machine gun is a federal crime, period. So given the 570% increase in recoveries, it's not a surprise that machine gun conversion devices are now the most common type of illegal firearm recovered in ATF trafficking cases. They account for almost 55% of the firearms recovered in our trafficking investigations between 2017 and 2021. For example, again, just last week, a Massachusetts man was arrested and charged with selling both fentanyl and machine gun conversion devices that he advertised on the Telegram app. When we executed the warrant, he literally had a small factory set up for them in his home. And a few weeks prior to that, federal prosecutors in New York City charged a person with possessing 39 machine gun conversion devices. In the days surrounding this charge, it's been going on all over. Individuals in Jacksonville, Orlando, Niagara Falls, Buffalo, Minneapolis, Michigan were all charged, convicted, or sentenced for crimes relating to machine gun conversion devices. As these cases make clear, this trend is no longer new. But we here at ATF and at the Department of Justice refuse to accept it. To combat this troubling development, ATF took action. In 2023, we launched the Emerging Threats Center, bringing together in one place ATF's experts to stay ahead of technological developments like 3D printers that could be misused to illegally circumvent our nation's gun laws in the future. Our wonderful examiners in our Firearms Technology Division are also intensely working on this problem. But we understand at ATF that to truly disrupt this problem, it's critical to engage with external stakeholders, like the ones we have with us here today, from the additive manufacturing industry to academia. Because as I said, law enforcement cannot stop this threat alone. So earlier this year, in the middle of winter, on a cold night, I traveled up to Dartmouth, Thayer School of Engineering, and asked for their help. That's why ATF personnel attend key industry events, like the Additive Manufacturing Users Group Conference, to begin conversation. It's why we talk to people from Wichita State, whether it's in Wichita State or here. We cannot let this great technology's misuse spoil things for all of those who have worked so hard to develop it. And as we brainstorm ways to tackle this ever-increasing threat, we, of course, received guidance, support, and constant pressure, in a good way, from our leader, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. That's no surprise to us here in ATF. Deputy Attorney General Monaco is quite literally every single day here, but also out of the public spotlight, a champion for public safety and for law enforcement. And she's a creative and aggressive leader, dedicated to finding new ways to try and protect Americans. She is one of ATF's greatest advocates, and when we connected with her about this serious issue, she wasted no time in developing a plan, a creative plan, using both new and old tools to help save lives. That's just how she rolls. Distinguished colleagues and guests, please join me in welcoming the 39th Deputy Attorney General of the United States of America, the Honorable Lisa O. Monaco.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. A little more active. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Thank you, Director Dettelbach, for that very kind and generous introduction. Before I begin, though, I want to echo Steve's comments and express my sympathies again to the families and loved ones of those impacted by Wednesday's horrific school shooting in Winder, Georgia. The Department of Justice stands with all law enforcement and community members responding to this terrible tragedy. Now, turning to our mission today, I am grateful to Director Dettelbach and to his leadership and the leadership and vision of ATF in gathering this group that are around these tables here today, folks from law enforcement, from academia, from the private sector, coming together to tackle the spread of machine gun conversion devices and the violence that they leave in their wake. I also want to extend a special welcome and a warm one and a thank you to our partners from Dartmouth College, from Wichita State University, from Oak Ridge National Lab, and representatives from the 3D printing industry for coming together to address the abuse and misuse of technology to accelerate violence in our communities. Thank you for your engagement today and over the last year as we work together to identify ways to get these deadly devices off of our streets. The Department of Justice has no higher priority than keeping our communities safe. We've been all in on reversing the violent crime uptick that started during the pandemic in 2020, an uptick defined by an increase in gun crimes in too many communities. Gun crimes made more violent, more deadly by machine gun conversion devices. Since 2021, the Justice Department has been executing a comprehensive strategy to reduce violent crime, one that's rooted in local communities and built on 4 pillars. Going after the most significant drivers of violent crime, like gun crime, dangerous weaponry, and violent repeat offenders. Fostering trust and earning legitimacy in the communities that we serve. Investing in community-based prevention and intervention programs, and measuring our results and the impact of our efforts through actual decreases in violent crime. Now, our strategy is having an impact in the forms of crimes prevented and lives saved. According to available data from 2023, murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault show considerable declines from the previous year. And in nearly 90 major cities across the country, violent crime has continued to drop during the first 6 months of this year compared to the same time period last year, including a 17% decrease in homicides. Now, these are promising trends, to be sure, but we cannot afford to let up. Far from it. We must continue our focus on the most significant drivers of violent crime, and we must continue identifying emerging threats to our communities. So that's why we're here. We're here to discuss one such emerging threat, machine gun conversion devices, or MCDs, also known as switches or auto sears. These highly dangerous devices that are often just a small piece of metal or plastic, as Steve showed, can convert a run-of-the-mill firearm into a weapon of war. From a shooting at a Sweet 16 party in Dadeville, Alabama, which claimed 4 lives, to a drive-by shooting in Cincinnati, Ohio, killing an 11-year-old boy in the crossfire. MCDs can transform a street corner into a combat zone, devastating entire communities. The law classifies an MCD as an illegal machine gun. I want to be clear, because of its destructive effect, the possession of an MCD is illegal under federal law. So the proliferation of these MCD devices requires our immediate and sustained attention. Machine gun conversion devices convert handguns and rifles into machine guns. The result is a deadly combination, more rapid firing, amounting to hundreds of bullets in mere minutes with one pull of a trigger. So even as the number of shootings goes down, when the spread of MCDs is unchecked, the number of fatalities can go up. Using MCDs is illegal, selling MCDs is illegal, and being in possession of MCDs is illegal. They're cheap, they're not hard to manufacture, often with 3D printers, as you see, and they've been proliferating for years. Today, MCDs are the most frequently recovered type of illegal firearm. And the growing use of MCDs by criminals presents a danger to the public and to brave members of law enforcement who put their lives on the line every single day and who should not have to face such dangerous weaponry. So given the clear danger MCDs pose to our communities, today I'm issuing a department-wide directive, and we are taking action to confront this threat in 3 ways. First, I'm establishing the Justice Department's Action Network to terminate illegal machine gun conversion devices, or anti-MCD for short. The anti-MCD committee will be co-chaired by ATF and one of our U.S. attorneys who's been employing innovative strategies to address the MCD threat. The committee will include representatives of the department's law enforcement agencies and prosecutorial components. I'll be asking the anti-MCD committee for recommendations on how to best deploy department resources to reduce the proliferation of MCDs. To ensure seamless coordination, to spot trends, and gather intelligence, the anti-MCD committee will work with the department's law enforcement components to update the tracking of MCD seizures and prosecutions in real time. And the committee will help drive best practices for work across law enforcement and across government on joint initiatives and prosecution efforts to crack down on MCDs. Now, key to getting MCDs off the streets is training those on the front lines confronting these deadly devices on the latest MCD technologies and enforcement authorities. So the second action I'm announcing today is the creation of a national MCD training initiative, spearheaded by ATF and designed to equip law enforcement and prosecutors with the tools they need to combat MCDs. Given how quickly MCD design and distribution networks are evolving, ATF will continually update training driven by the latest intelligence. Just today, the Bureau of Justice Assistance and the ATF are releasing a new training module for law enforcement around the country, educating them on detecting and identifying MCDs. And while we're improving our training and while we're improving our data, we'll also be adding to our capabilities. ATF will designate a national MCD coordinator to serve as a hub of expertise for all of our partners. Now, as law enforcement adapts to the MCD landscape, so too must the Department of Justice's prosecutors, led by the U.S. Attorney community. U.S. Attorneys' offices are already doing great work here, and I really want to thank Chris Kavanaugh for his leadership representing the U.S. Attorney community today and for his work on this issue with the Attorney General's Advisory Committee. So today, to continue to build on that work, I'm directing all 94 U.S. Attorneys' offices to prioritize MCD prosecutions by employing comprehensive and district-specific MCD enforcement strategies. And over the next 90 days, each U.S. Attorney's office will meet with federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial enforcement partners to identify promising MCD-related enforcement practices. Now, many U.S. attorneys are already doing this. For example, Project Switch Off was launched late last year by Bob Traster from the Western District of Oklahoma. And working with ATF, his federal prosecutors have trained nearly 500 Oklahoma City police to identify, recognize, and refer MCD offenses for federal prosecution. And his office has also been providing training to the district's judges to underscore the dangers posed by MCDs. Bob's office is prioritizing the prosecution of MCD offenses, and in less than a year, the Western District of Oklahoma has charged nearly 40 individuals with MCD-related offenses. That's compared to 8 total prosecutions between 2020 and 2022 before this initiative. And you know what? It's having an effect. Switchers aren't appearing like they used to on their streets or on social media. A member of the Oklahoma City Police Department recently reported to the U.S. Attorney about the impact of these federal prosecutions in their community, saying, and I quote, "Gang members are scared to death to use the switches because their buddies are going to federal prison. It's very clear your prosecutions are making a huge difference in our community," end quote. This is a powerful example of how working together we can make a difference for our communities. And that's why I've asked Bob to serve as the co-chair of our anti-MCD committee. Now, as we focus on getting MCDs off our streets, this much is clear. Law enforcement cannot do this alone. Today's convening is a critical step, but we're still at the beginning of this work in many ways. Work that can't be limited to how we train law enforcement and how we prosecute offenders. It must also include stopping these devices from reaching criminals in the first place. While many MCDs are manufactured in the United States, others are imported from overseas, from markets like China. We need to do more to disrupt that illicit flow. We need to engage software developers, technology experts, and leaders in the 3D printing industry to identify solutions in this fight. And we have to do all of this while raising public awareness about the deadly threat posed by MCDs. Combating this threat will take all of us, industry, academia, government, working together. Because you know your industries and this technology better than anyone. You're the ones leading the research that will inform the next innovations. You are the ones on the cutting edge in your sector. You will all bring different expertise and experiences to this challenge, but we all share the same goal: ensuring that those innovations and this technology isn't being used to harm our communities. We will keep at this work, trying to stop the proliferation of MCDs. Our ask is that when you return to your companies, your agencies, your institutions, that you do the same. Today, with your help, your ideas, your commitment, we are moving this forward. So thank you, once again, all of you, for leading the way. I look forward to seeing where we all go from here in our collective efforts to keep our communities safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Deputy Attorney General Monaco, for your support, your office's support. Thank you also to Senior Counsel Michael Dresner for being a fantastic partner in this event and supporting ATF and all of us and all that we do. Thank you. And on the thank yous, I would like to particularly thank our United States Attorneys, United States Attorney Traster, and it's my privilege to introduce to you United States Attorney Christopher Kavanaugh. Coming from a United States Attorney's Office for over 14 years, I could go on and on about what a fantastic place it is to work, but truly they are our most important partners as agents and in what we do, and we couldn't have a better partner representing us on the Attorney General's Advisory Committee than United States Attorney Kavanaugh. He has been a fantastic supporter of us, and as soon as we asked him if he would participate in this, he was enthusiastic and all in. So we are so grateful to have United States Attorney Kavanaugh here with us today, the United States Attorney for the Western District of Virginia. And U.S. Attorney Kavanaugh, thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Chris Kavanaugh. I'm the United States Attorney for the Western District of Virginia. And as Chelsea had mentioned, I am the representative on the Attorney General's Advisory Committee, serving as a liaison for and focusing on issues for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And I am particularly fortunate in that role because Director Dettelbach, a former United States Attorney himself, is not only a tremendous ambassador for his agency, but also an amazing partner with all of the United States Attorneys throughout the entire country as we work on our enforcement strategies with respect to violent crime. Today, I'm here on behalf of the entire United States Attorney community, all 93 of us from coast to coast throughout the entire country who serve as the chief federal law enforcement officers in our respective districts. And next week, here in Washington, D.C., we will all come together where we will share information with one another, and we will strategize about our own enforcement priorities and what is going on in our respective districts so we can learn from one another and help to improve and have effects in our own hometowns. And to give you a sense of just how rapidly the threat of gun violence can change in a country, just as recently as 5 years ago, really no one in the United States attorney community was talking about machine gun conversion devices, switches, or auto sears. We weren't seeing them. They were, in many cases, just a hypothetical. Now, especially given the spike in the last 2 years, machine gun conversion devices dominate the conversation when United States attorneys get together and talk about our individual enforcement strategies. And that is because all 93 of us throughout the country are seeing these devices on our streets. They're being pulled out of vehicles. We have citizens, mothers, fathers, children that are hearing the report of these firearms in our living rooms and in our bedrooms throughout our entire communities. And more members of our society are falling victim to the never-before-seen lethality of these devices, of what was previously just a simple handgun. Think about that just for a moment. 5 years ago, in just 5 years, something completely unexpected has come onto the scene and caused an entire new wave, an entire shift in violent crimes caused by firearms. And that is why I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the leadership of Deputy Attorney General Monaco and Director Dettelbach in calling attention to and prioritizing an all-tools in the toolkit approach to this rapidly evolving threat and doing whatever we can to eliminate it. And the United States attorneys are following that lead, and that is precisely what we'll continue to do. As just a couple of more examples, in Massachusetts, United States Attorney Josh Levy and his office just seized over 350 website domains that are used to illegally import these switches or machine gun conversion devices. In New York, U.S. Attorney Breon Peace and his office used a civil complaint and obtained a temporary restraining order against a firearms company that was illegally selling forced reset triggers, a device designed to convert AR-15 type rifles into machine guns themselves. In Texas, all 4 United States attorneys from the northern, southern, eastern, and western districts have come together for Operation Kill Switch, in which they partnered with local Crime Stopper programs to offer cash rewards for information that would lead to individuals who possess these devices or the 3D printers that are making them. And as you'll hear from an example from Bob Tracer later today, and as mentioned by the Deputy Attorney General, United States attorneys across the country are seeking to doing whatever we can to try to educate state and local law enforcement officers who often don't recognize these devices. We have to teach them about the lethality of them, how to recognize them so they can be referred for appropriate federal criminal prosecution. And we will continue throughout the entire country to leverage the laws that Director Dettelbach was mentioning, any and all of them that we can, to hold people accountable who use these dangerous devices. But that's not going to be enough, and that is why I'm so grateful for all of us here today, representatives from industry, academia, and of course law enforcement, to come together to take action to help reduce and hopefully eliminate the proliferation of these devices and the violence that they reap in our communities. Thank you so much for your time here today, and it's an honor to be here.
Thank you, U.S. Attorney Kavanaugh, Director Dettelbach, and Deputy Attorney General Monaco. This concludes the public portion of our proceedings here today. So we're going to ask the people that are going to stay for the conversations later to stay seated, and the media to leave the room. Thank you. Be a short break, hopefully.